Welcome to my Wednesday ramblings. You'll be pleased to know that it's actually Wednesday this week. This is an interesting weekend for me. As you know, I'm preaching a message series on food for the journey based on chapter 6 of St. John's Gospel. So the message series continues this weekend, and here we find the people being challenged by the words of Jesus, which tell them that he has come from the Father. And again, this confusion in their minds, they think of Joseph and his family, and that's what they refer to. But we know, of course, that Jesus is speaking of something much more profound, and he speaks about being the bread of life, and he who comes to me will never be hungry. So there is a very real development of this theme of food for the journey, which is part of the message series that continues this weekend. It is a message series that is just available on podcast, so either my homily via Apple or via the Podomatic podcast system. But it's, if you need to follow it, it's Mike Delaney, all one word, mikedelaney.podomatic.com, and you can find the message there. There'll also be a message around the Feast of Mary of the MacKillop, the first Australian saint canonised almost 9 years ago, who is a reminder to us of what it means to be totally faithful to the gospel message, in spite of, and in many cases despite, the challenges and the threats that are made to her, by people who basically were jealous of her faithfulness, her fidelity, and because she dared to challenge the entrenched system. There's a lot of very, very powerful witnesses, quotes that she gives that can be found on the Josephite calendar that's produced each year, but also just in some of her writings, the thoughts and the challenges she presents. And one of them is to never see a challenge without doing something about it. Really looking for the way in which how to make Christ present in our daily living. There's a third homily that I'm working on at the moment as well, and that's the homily in preparation for the Jubilee Mass. Father Terry Rush is celebrating on Monday. For whatever reason, he's asked me to preach at his Jubilee Mass, and so it's a great privilege, and so that's another homily that I'm working on at the moment. So 3 homilies for one weekend is a challenge, but hopefully I'll be able to fulfill that challenge with a degree of success and in fact be able to do it well. So you've got a choice. You've got the story of food for the journey and this ongoing challenge that Jesus presents to the people who are in the crowd, reminding them that it's not mankind that gives us the food that we need, but rather the gracious and compassionate love of God. And then there's also the story of Mary MacKillop and her faithfulness to the gospel in spite of the trials that in fact she endured. And then there's the priesthood of Terry Rush, who celebrates 50 years on Friday, and the fidelity and the love that he has had for the people of God, both in his own home of Townsville, but also in our archdiocese for much of that 50 years. Look forward to catching you next week when we do another Wednesday ramblings and look at the readings and the message for next week. But that's where I got to this week, 3 homilies, so hopefully I'll be able to get at least all 3 of them right. Take care and God bless.